What's up, guys? This is Jimmy with Hifly Fitness, and today I'm going to talk to you about my current plans for my powerlifting meets this year, and my plan to compete in the USPA for as long as I can, and as long as it seems that I can remain competitive in the USPA, or until I decide I have a new goal with my life. So, as you see here, I'm lifting a little bit more than usual for squats. My squats are probably my weakest lift for various reasons. You know, mainly because I don't train them frequently enough, and that's one of the things that I'm going to be focusing on this training cycle. But for this workout, I'm simply testing my squat, bench, and deadlift maxes. And I did all of this after 4 hours of training, or 4 hours of caddying in about 90-degree weather with about 85% humidity. And I don't mean to make excuses, I'm just explaining that my fatigue level was fairly high after this workout. However, I was able to drink 2 monsters and I kicked my ass into the gym, but I was going into the workout at about 85% of what I really thought I could put into it going into the beginning of the week, because I knew I had to do this workout about a week into it. So the biggest focus I had here was being as strong as I could without amping myself up, because it's not a meet simulated training session, it's just a training max. So it's not a meet max, it's a training max. So that means I'm not using any ammonia, I'm not using any of my self-medicated adrenaline techniques, which is basically just playing my favorite song as loud as possible and yelling and jumping up and down until I have so much adrenaline in my blood, there's no way I'll miss a lift. Which is why I'm a little bit slower out of the bottom and I'm a little bit more hesitant in the squat. Another thing is, on bench, I felt awesome. One of the things I did to make sure I felt awesome was I used voodoo floss. Basically, I wrapped my left and right elbow with a latex band. You can look up voodoo floss. I think Kelly Starrett has a bunch of videos on it. But basically, I wrapped my elbows with some voodoo floss for about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Took it off, elbows felt phenomenal. So my bench turned out pretty well here. My deadlift was a little bit lighter than I wanted it to be, primarily due to I had a massive headache basically this entire workout, and deadlifting heavy just forced way too much blood into my head. I actually almost passed out during one of my warm-up sets because I wasn't breathing correctly. But overall, I was pretty happy with this training max test. So I should have a really good plan to go into the future. So why am I competing in the USPA? Well, primarily because the USPA is the only federation that I'm aware of that is in both Ohio and Minnesota and has meets that coincide almost perfectly with my current training plan and my current competition plan. I want to compete every 13 to 16 weeks. So basically I'll compete once during the school year, maybe once or twice during the school year, but most likely once. I think I'll compete in November, and then I'll compete in May. And then I may compete again in the summer, but I'm not positive about that. So I'll compete in May, and that meet will be in Minnesota, and I'll be in Minnesota at that time. So basically it perfectly lines up with my schedule. The USAPL, the meets don't line up with my schedule at all. The USAPL has a meet actually that same weekend, but then there isn't any meets that will line up so that I can compete in within 13 to 16 weeks after that meet. So it makes sense most to me to compete in the USPA. It's one of the strictest federations other than the USAPL, that their goal is to make it as strict as possible. They're really enforcing the rules, so don't worry, I'll be squatting to depth, everything will be fine. I'm not going to be cheating any of my reps, and everything is just strict as possible. That's really all I want to talk to you about today. I hope that you learned something here to better your lifting and better your training. And I don't know if I got to this, but overall, simply don't train to failure. Don't max out your training unless you're training for a new training cycle, or if you're training to compete. That's all I got for you guys today. I encourage you to rise from within.